guys. So thank you again for tuning in for another Fireside Thursday chat. This one is very special. There is a lot going on. So we obviously, as you can see, have Hunter Patterson in, Recon, in to chat with us about mining today, which is going to be awesome. We have some questions that we'll be asking him, and he'll be going in depth with, and it's going to be fun. We're also going to talk a lot before we kind of dive into the mining aspect about things coming up with AstroDonkey. We've got some big things. Obviously this next week or two is going to be a very big jumping off point for the tokens. So wanted to talk a little bit about that. And yeah, so we're recording now and we're good to go. So before we dive into talking to Hunter about mining 101 and starting off this mini series, we kind of wanted to give everybody a little bit of an update on what's going to be happening. So obviously this Saturday is going to be the STP presale, which is obviously very exciting. Hunter's psyched. Everybody here is psyched. It's going to be great. So we wanted to just kind of touch on that a little bit and let you guys know, if you guys haven't had the time to load up your wallets, there is still time. Presale is on Saturday, 1/22. It'll be on pink sale, just like the last one was. So for everybody that bought in pre-sale, which I think most people have that are here, it's very, very easy, very straightforward. Obviously, if as we go, we'll have more details for you guys. We touched on this a bit. If everybody had joined on trivia last night, which was great as always, JoJo, kudos. We touched on a lot of the white paper 2.0. So we touched on what STP will entail, what the tokenomics are of STP, which you guys can obviously referenced in the white paper. But as you know, 77.8% of the total supply will be up for presale. The remaining will be used for the airdrops. So we have the 30 BNB soft cap, 60 BNB hard cap, which is very small judging by the interest that we have. So if you do plan on jumping into presale, I would make sure that you're ready to go, because I have a feeling that this is going to fill up really quick. Obviously, everyone knows 787 or 6,787 billion, I believe. I'm not good with decimals and commas. Jay's really the comma expert in this group, but so. We have we have our supply. We've got, the 0.1 BNB is the minimum, and obviously 1 BNB will be the max. So basically 60 slots up for grabs here. That's it. So, obviously there might be fractional buys, but I know some people that have some loaded wallets, and multiple of them. So we want to make sure that everybody has their chance to score. So obviously, if you guys have any questions, we're always in the Telegram, but just kind of a quick run over on again, just a reminder that 1/22 you'll see STP presale. I also wanted to give kind of a quick rundown of impact voting, which is going to be starting on February 1st, which is also a very, very exciting part of between STP and this is really where the community gets to come in and kind of make an impact on AstroDonkey. So as you guys know, the community governance is the allotted portion of the impact wallet. This is going to start on February 1st, where we'll start really getting everything rolling. Between the launch and the date, everything's going to be put into the liquidity pool on PancakeSwap. So everything will be ready to go on February 1st. We're going to, obviously this is not, and this is full disclosure, this is new for everybody. So we have a process that we're going to be working on in hand. We're going to have AMAs scheduled. We're going to be able to discuss all of our choices before the voting dates. We will have specific times we'll be doing AMAs. Our room's always open anyway. So if you guys have any questions, you guys want to chat about whatever, let us know. We can always hop into the voice chat, and you guys can do it amongst yourselves. That's the whole point of a community token, is to, have the community engaged all the time. So we really want to make sure that everybody puts their heads together and makes a decision on what we want to do. And it's a great opportunity, and it's full transparency with the tokens, which is really exciting. So we'll be announcing this on AMAs. It'll be announced all over Telegram. We'll kind of have more details from that when they get finalized, in the coming week or so. How to vote, everybody has probably already seen this, but you're going to have a login, your wallet, and then you'll have a password. And you'll log in, you'll put your vote in, and at the end of the day, we'll tally them up, and we'll have a poll where, we kind of figure out what obviously we see what has the most votes, and then we decide accordingly, and we execute. So it's very exciting. We're really looking forward to it. There's a lot of options that you can choose from in terms of what you want to do with the community wallet, which is great. We can choose to burn, put it towards advertising, adding to the liquidity pool, all these awesome things, giveaways, contests. If we want to move the wallet towards giveaways, then you can choose that. Charity, lotteries, rollover. If we don't know what we want to do, we roll it over into the next voting period. So there's a lot of options, and obviously we want the community to be engaged in the AstroDonkey token as much as possible, right? And so not only launching, a second coin into the ecosystem, which also has, very, very fruitful benefits for those of you that hold Donkey already. So not only releasing that STP into the ecosystem, but also giving the community the option to really make a difference in the token itself, and doing that with full transparency and full support from the devs. So really an awesome, exciting time to be an AstroDonkey, and I see this really going a lot smoother as we do this more. So we're expecting things to be a little rocky on the first vote, and so we'll be ironing those out, and obviously we'll all be working really hard to make sure that it goes as seamlessly as possible for everybody in our community moving forward. So if you guys do have any questions, let us know anytime. You guys know where to find us in the Telegram. If you guys have any questions that you'd like to talk about, next week we'll be hosting an AMA directly pertaining to the STP, not only STP, but the governance voting. So we'll be hopping on with a couple devs, and we'll be chatting, and we'll be able to answer any questions live. So that's a good opportunity to kind of study the white paper, come in, see what you guys want to, what you want to discuss, and maybe even start, get a head start on what you guys are thinking for the first vote. So let us know. Obviously, we'll be going. We'll be moving towards that next week. So, and that's pretty much it for updates right now in terms of what's going on. Everybody is pretty clear, and everyone knows what the deal is, and we have a big couple weeks ahead of us. So we're all, and I know the devs especially, are going nuts. So thank you guys for all your hard work as always. And with that said, Hunter, are you ready to rock and roll, buddy? Or
yeah, if I may kind of also chime in there as well, is I know that last evening there were some questions that were coming up in the trivia, and one of the Donkey team members had made mention that there's going to be a ton of information as far as the how-tos. It's to my understanding that a lot of that's going to just be readily available. The team has so far been fantastic and transparent on how all of this works. So anybody that is going to have questions to be getting into STP, if I don't buy the entire presale myself, there's going to be guides on how to do this. There's going to be folks in the Telegram chat room. I plan on being in there as well to try to help out the best I can. Everybody has just been fantastic. So if folks do have questions leading up to that, I would encourage them, reach out to the team. I cannot answer any questions for anybody regarding STP from the technicality side of it. So if you do have some questions and if you're just not finding the answers, feel free to just send the development team those questions, and I'm sure they'll get that taken care of for you. Definitely.
We're expecting, as tomorrow comes and Saturday morning comes, that we'll see more and more questions come up. So it's going to be, everything is pretty in terms of if you've looked at the white paper, you've seen STP. They really tried to put as much info into there as they could, so everybody knew. But there's always going to be questions. So obviously when we launched AstroDonkey, there were a lot of questions, and I'm sure that we'll see more as the time comes. But yeah, Hunter absolutely will always be available, myself included. So if you guys ever need anything, we're always in the Telegram. So, all right, now to the fun stuff. So I can sit back and absorb and drink my bourbon and have a good time. So Hunter, as we advertised and talked about, we're really interested in learning, and you have a very seasoned culture in crypto mining, and it's a very, one of the seemingly endless waves of passive income lately, and this one's kind of taken the world by storm, obviously, over the last year or two, especially, where everybody seems like they know, oh, I want to get into mining, I want to do this, I want to do that, and I personally seen a couple friends of mine in real life have looked into getting into mining, and they've just said, oh, I can do my own research and I can just kind of figure it out and go. And they buy all the equipment and they have no idea what they're doing. And they realize, oh, crap, this really is not fruitful for me. And they didn't actually make money on it. And they ended up getting rid of the equipment because they said they didn't understand, the kind of A to Z about mining in terms of it's not just buying the equipment and mining the tokens and the coins. There's so much more that goes into it, and this is why this is going to be great, because we'll kind of dive into that over this series, and we'll really get to dive in and really get into the specifics about crypto mining. So before we do that, obviously, we want to kind of give everybody in here a very basic and general kind of intro into
I think you're breaking up there. Uh-oh, did we lose him?
I think it froze. Hunter, if you just want to go ahead and, man, where did you start with this? Where does somebody even begin to start this process?
So the first thing, if you're going to get into mining, the first thing that you're going to have to understand is that mining is very power intensive. And so I've seen folks, they'll buy these massive pieces of hardware, or they're getting these 8 to 12 video cards, they're getting the frame, the motherboard and such, and they're not understanding that there are power requirements. And so kind of starting at the very beginning, if you're interested in mining, you have to understand what the concept of mining is. And to that effect, that mining is not technically generating all of the new tokens as much as it is more validations on a blockchain. You are, in effect, helping to increase the circulating supply. But mining is really there to help validate transactions on a blockchain to essentially prevent double spending. So as an example, if I go and purchase something for $20 and I hand that cashier $20, that money's gone, right? It's out of my possession. It's in their drawer. Unfortunately, right, on the blockchain, you can actually clone. You can reuse certain tokens. So essentially, if I'm going to give you $20 in one token, or a coin for this matter, $20 in that coin, if I don't have that transaction validated, I could be reusing that again and again and again. And so with your mining, what you're doing is you're not just validating the transactions that are out on the blockchain, you're getting paid for that hash power, for that processing power of a way to do that. And so if you're going to get into mining, you got to ask yourself, why am I getting into it? Are you getting into it as a hobby? Are you getting into it because you're looking to make real money? Or are you just getting into it because it's the hip and cool thing to do? And that's really going to determine what your successful outcome is, because most folks, when they initially get into mining, are operating at a loss. just because of either the hardware or the power. There's the different mining capabilities if you're using your CPU in a computer, your GPU for your graphics cards, or if you're using ASIC miners and so forth. There's tons of terminology. And I would like to point out, before we go down a couple of rabbit holes, is that this is going to be a series. And a lot of the content we're going to discuss, it will try to be a 10,000-foot view to the best of our ability. But if there are questions, folks are more than welcome. Submit those questions, and I'll do my best to get an expeditious turnaround back for you and answer anything that I can. So if there's something that was skipped over that you really wanted to learn a little bit more about, don't worry, there's going to be more content that's coming, but this is just kind of more mining in general. So just full disclosure, don't feel that you're being left out, is what I'm getting at if you do have some questions. So I would definitely say the first question you got to ask yourself is, why are you doing it? As an example, if you're doing it to make some money, you're going to have to understand it's going to take money by way of doing so. The second element is, what are you wanting to mine? So as an example, Nick, let's say you've contacted me and said, Hunter, I want to get into mining. What do I do? I'm going to ask. What do I want to
do? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Ask me. What are you going to ask?
So you come to me, I want to get into mining. I'm going to ask you, like, all right, hey, Nick, that's great. What do you want to mine? Like, what's your heart set on?
Yeah. I'm going to say LTC for this example, Litecoin.
Okay, so for Litecoin. Do you hold any Litecoin currently?
I do.
Okay. Are you familiar with Litecoin? Are you familiar that that Dogecoin is a byproduct of Litecoin mining?
No.
It's dual mining.
Okay.
So have you ever mined before?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So in order to be able to mine Litecoin, it's impossible to do with your standard GPU processors and your CPU processors. If you want to see a return, basically, you can mine very minuscule amounts of Litecoin. But if you're looking at getting some type of a profit in the long run, you're going to need an ASIC miner. And the ASIC miners, if you've ever seen Ghostbusters, and everybody remembers little ghost traps, it's actually something that somebody said we might actually be giving away at one point. Basically, all those things are. I know, it was weird. I think that Hunter guy did. But all these things are doing is they're just processors. All they're doing is just crunching numbers, and doing so thousands of times faster than your average PC. So if you're wanting to get into mining Litecoin, you're going to need the hardware to support it. And I would tell you that your PC can't do it unless you're just doing it for fun. And definitely your graphics card's not going to be able to do it unless you're disgustingly wealthy and you've been able to acquire a GeForce 3090 and you haven't told anybody. But depending on what you're mining, it depends on the hardware that you can use, because Litecoin is built for ASICs, not GPU. So if you're wanting to go after that, then my question is going to be the $1 million question: what's your budget?
Right. And so I say mine would say it was I don't know, say for example, let's say $5,000. So
some of the best miners that you can get right now, entry to mid-level for Litecoin, are the Bitmain L3 and the L3 Plus and the L3 Plus Plus. You can typically get them between $1,000 and $1,500 a piece. Each miner will yield roughly $10 to $15 per day. So if you do the math, if you have $5,000, let's say that you're lucky and you can acquire 4 of these miners. Now, each one of these things also has a 1,200 watt power supply. So do you have an area in the house that you can store these things, as they are as loud as a vacuum cleaner? Do you have a secured area in the home that has good airflow, or that you wouldn't mind a loud noise?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So no, I don't. But for example, no. I have no.
Well, I've seen some people buy these things and they'll put them in their living room, expecting them to just sit, on a shelf somewhere or on a countertop somewhere, and they're running, and they're excessively loud. So as you can see, you're kind of already going down the route that you want to get into Litecoin. You're fascinated with the Lightning Network, the hardware you're going to need, your $5,000 investment. Okay, you should be able to hit ROI in about 6 months. But knowing that they're 1,200 watts of power and that you're going to be yielding probably an extra $30 to $40 a month each unit, depending on where you're living, you kind of see you're going to be operating into the loss area just a little bit until you have a chance to, to really amass that. So let's say that in a perfect world, you have everything that you need. You have a room set up, you've got ventilation, you've got your budget, and you have the miners that are going. Now, getting those coins from that mining pool, which is what we'll discuss in a moment, is how do you store it, right? If you have a digital wallet, then obviously you can send all of the coins that you're mining from the pool to that digital wallet. They don't have to be stored on an exchange. So that also gives you sense of mind and a piece of security that everything that you're mining is going directly from your miners to your digital wallet, and there's nothing in between. With that being said, you typically will not store your digital wallet where your mining revenues are coming on the same machine that you're playing a video game on, or maybe browsing the dark web. You definitely don't want to open that up for access because, well, if it gets taken, you're not ever going to get that piece back. So us as an example, we have 77 L3 pluses. It's a significant yield. We're using, I think last count we were using with the overclock almost 300,000 watts of power in the home. Our power bill is roughly $2,200 a month as a result of doing that. Wow. But I can tell you that right now, even with Litecoin, kind of watching the chart here, it's very depressing. Right now, those miners are bringing in $19,700 a month is what we're looking at. Wow. And so when you have your miners, each miner has a set capability as far as processing power, and we call this hash rate. So very similar to that of drive storage, where you have your kilobytes, your megabytes, your gigabytes, and your terabytes, and so forth. Every miner is able to compound and process transactions out on the blockchain using your mega hash, your gigahash, your terahash, and so forth. And obviously, the more processing power that the units are performing, the more yield you're going to get in return. Obviously, the more you're going to mine, essentially. And so the miners that you're looking for, the L3 Plus, as an example, comes in roughly right about 580 megahash. And so what you do is you would go to a Litecoin hash rate calculator, and you would put in what the mega hash is of your current hardware. So if you were to say that you were to have 4 of these things and you're averaging, roughly 2,200 mega hash, it would act, and then you would put in how much power that you're using. It would give you an example of 2,200 mega hash times the current rate of Litecoin. This is how much you're going to be This is how much you're going to be getting each month. But there's a twist to that. So there's 2 elements to mining. One of them is called solo mining, and one of them is called pool mining. As an example, if you said, I don't have a lot of processing power, but I at least want to get something in return, it's most beneficial to go join a pool. The reason for that is because the pools collectively and collaboratively are all working towards going after the next block in the blockchain. They're going after, you're going after your next block of Litecoin. And every time that a block is discovered by your pool, the pool is getting paid, and then you're receiving a small percentage based off of how much hash power you put into it. So how this works, if I asked you to pick a number between 1 and 1 million, and then I asked a group of people over here of 100 of them to pick a group between 1 and 1 million, and then I asked over here of a group to pick 1 and 1 million, but they said there's 1,000 people. So you have 1, 100, and 1,000 people here. Who do you think is going to most likely statistically guess that right answer first? You, 100 people, or 1,000 people?
Right, the group of 1,000.
Right, that's a pool, is what that is. That pool right there is everybody's working towards that objective. But let's say because of your limited hash rate, you're only allowed to answer once a minute compared to everybody else around you answering once every second.
Got it.
So you're really only contributing a minor amount to the overall answer or to the guess, but it's still possible you could guess it right. However, because you're in a pool, even if you guessed it completely right, you're still going to get the exact same amount that you would if you didn't guess that correctly, because you're still only able to answer once every minute, and you're being paid off of that small percentage that you're contributing. That may not seem like a lot, but if you're making an extra $10 to $15 per day, that does add up. So solo mining, on the other hand, is you're the one guy trying to guess a number between 1 and 1 million. Now, this group over here of 1,000 people guessed the number. So now that number goes to 2 million. It goes to 4 million, goes to 8 million. The difficulty gets harder and harder and harder because for every block that is discovered on the blockchain, it increases in its difficulty. So if you have very minimal hardware and you're flying solo, it's like playing the lottery. The advantage is if you find the block, then you keep all of the rewards. Mm-hmm. As an example, if you find a block of Dogecoin, there's 10,000 Dogecoin in there. Not too bad. But if you're one guy trying to compete in a larger pool, so it doesn't really make sense that if you only have that small amount of processing power to go into run it on solo, unless you just doing this as a hobby and just want to go play around. But if you're looking to be serious with it, the typical pattern is if you have your 4, and it's actually really wish I could share my screen with you, but I'll give you a quick set of numbers here. So with current pricing with your 4, as you and I have been discussing, unfortunately, you're only profiting about $18 a day. And that's as of right now. So if you're getting your $18 a day, roughly $510 a month, since Litecoin has just completely crashed, knowing that the miners themselves you spent roughly $1,500 on, we typically use our mining revenues to buy more hardware, if that makes sense.
Right. It's like doubling down on your investment. So like say,
exactly.
You make your money and then you take your money and you put it into more money. You put it into making more money.
Exactly. But you also have those people that they're mining because, if somebody's making an extra $500 a month and they figure, okay, if I hit ROI in 10 months, just to put into perspective, 6 months ago, you would hit ROI in 5 months with Litecoin. You'd be doing really, really well. But if you're making $500 a month, you're not going to see a return on your investment for 10 months that you just spent $5,000 on. Mm-hmm. And this is where people ask the question, should I even mine? I'm going to pay an extra several $100s a month in power. I'm going to put $5,000 out there, and it's going to take me almost a year to get my investment back, right? And so they're thinking maybe I should just take that $5,000 and go just invest that into a coin or a token project, not really understanding that right. But what happens after that year? If the goal is to have passive income, you're going to get there eventually. But imagine what happens after you've hit that ROI in that 10-month span, assuming the markets never recover. You're free and clear an extra $500 a month, right? So as time goes on, you could be buying a new miner every 3 months, if you see what I'm going, and eventually you're going to be funding your whole mining operation.
Right. So yeah, and so when it comes to mining, so when it comes to setting up, right? Because obviously the first step is, so say I walk in and I say, all right, I want to do this, right? I want to mine. I get the equipment, or I find the equipment. Without going into too much detail, because obviously we can't say, we can't go through step by steps. There's not enough time in the day. So is this something that's as easy as plugging it in? Do you have to plug in all the components and then really get it rolling? What does setup look like for installing it? And you don't have to, obviously, again, not, it doesn't have to be too specific, but how is it can a Joe Friday like myself do this, or is there, would I need help setting it up?
You absolutely could. One of the common misconceptions that makes guys like me a lot of money in the crypto space when we're consulting with investors is that there's this perception it's complicated, that there's this science behind it all to set it up, to get it working, to get it running, to maintain it. And oh my gosh, we need to pay Hunter $10,000 a month on a retainer because it's going to take at least 20 hours a month to maintain all of this, and we don't know how to do it. Sure, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But you don't need to. It's simple. It really is. And anyone tells you that it isn't is just trying to sell you something. So let's say you've gotten your L3. It's finally been delivered, and you're ready to rock and roll. You've got your L3. You're just going to plug the power into each one of your hash boards across the top. You're going to plug your power strip. You're going to plug your power adapter into the bottom here, and you're going to plug your network cable into the top front piece, and you're going to turn it on. It's going to pull up an IP address just like any other device on the network, and you can go out and just do an IP scan. Once you find the IP address, you just go logging in using the defaults. There's a lot of different features and functions that you can do inside of the miners if you want to overclock them. Ignore all that. If you're just looking for like consistency and just ease of use, by the time that miner turns on and you've logged into it, you're going to be asked a couple of questions, such as, one, what is the name of the mining pool? It typically looks like a website, just in layman's terms here. And you're going to put the address of the mining pool as the target. The second thing, it's going to ask for the username, and it's going to ask for a password. Well, that's because when you're hitting that target, it's going to ask for the username and password of the account that you created in that mining pool, so it knows this is your miner. Now, when it authenticates and when it connects, it's just going to run. That's it. You can do other variables when it comes to script or the tokens or so forth, and we'll get into that piece later. But it really is just as simple as signing up for a pool, finding a pool that you want to get into, in this case, litecoinpool.org, create an account, add a Litecoin wallet into that account, go to your miner, point the miner to the address that the Litecoin pool has given you, put your username and put the password, and it just runs. You really don't have to do much with these things outside of your preventative maintenance, making sure that there's no chunks of dust in there, not real high humidity. Just keep an eye on the temperature, the ambient temperature in the room. I reboot mine usually about once a week because I'm doing preventative maintenance on them. But from the time it takes you to receive one of these to the time that you are set up and that you are ready to go, you could have it done in under an hour.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah. Well, I guess in that you kind of set me up into a perfect question, and I know that and I'm looking at mining like I'm thinking, wow, this is like going to be super overwhelming, right? I mean, when I'm not technical enough to do this, and I can't. I can possibly figure this out on my own. And I think that by talking to you, it really isn't. It really is easier than people really think it is. And it's one of those things where it's one of those very simple methods of passive income if you know how to do it right. And that's why I think this is so beneficial, is because we can really we can talk and figure out how it works for everybody, because obviously everyone's situation is different, right? I'm sure you've talked to a bunch of people that in different, larger companies that want to set up on a higher scale, and they both have different goals, and they all, nothing is the same, right? So I'm sure that every time you approach a situation, you have to go into it thinking this is going to be totally different than something I've seen the last time, and it may not be. There may be some similarities, but a lot of it, I'm sure, is very unique.
It absolutely is, because as with anything, as with any computer, there's programming languages. So as you had made mention that you wanted to go out and mine Litecoin, Litecoin uses what's called the script logarithm. So in other words, every blockchain has a specified logarithm by way of communication to it. It's a handshake. So you can have your L3. And I've had that question of, okay, Hunter, I want to go mine Bitcoin with this. Well, the short answer is You can't. Not directly, you can't. Because the logarithm that Bitcoin is using is different than Litecoin. And so when you're looking at the miners, you may say, wow, this miner is only $100. This is really cheap. And it's got a ton of processing power in the terahash. Okay, but in one step back, just to give you an example, remember how we talked about that your L3 was running right about 580 megahash? If you were to go buy a Bitcoin miner at 104 terahash, okay? If you were to do 104 terahash on the Litecoin network, you're making millions of dollars a week. So some people are thinking, well, this is only 580 megahash, but this is terahash. I'm going to buy this and I'm going to go mine Bitcoin with it. You can't do that because the logarithm is not supported on the Litecoin network. In fact, and I had this argument with somebody the other day, they said, well, what if I want to indirectly mine Litecoin? In other words, you can lend your processing power to a pool and say, pay me in Bitcoin, pay me in Litecoin.
I see.
Pay me in whatever denominations you're looking for. And that's actually a really nice way to diversify. So what they did was they bought this 110 terahash miner and said, well, see, I'm going to get paid in Litecoin, equivalent to 110 terahash. You won't. You'll be paid 110 terahash equivalent in its native logarithm because they can't use that miner outside of the SHA-256 network, or they can't use that miner outside of the X11 network. So you can indirectly mine for other coins by saying, I'm tired of mining Litecoin today. I'm just going to take all of my hash power, go give it to a pool, and say, just go ahead and pay me in Dogecoin, Ethereum, and what have you. But you are governed by whatever logarithm that miner is capable of doing, because the pool says, hey, you have 104 terahash, but it only works on this pool. And 104 terahash is only worth $5 a day. So it's important to understand that when you're going after mining, to not just look at what it is that you're trying to go after, but making sure you have the right equipment, the right hardware that does support it. Because if you go out and you were to look up ASIC miners, all this different hardware that's out there, you're going to see over 20 different logarithms, from Quark to Qubit to Skyne. I mean, you're going to see just tons and tons of them out there. That's where it does get confusing. That's why a lot of people do get a little intimidated, because they think, what the hell am I supposed to do? Like, what am I supposed to buy? And then folks are thinking, well, why can't I just use my graphics card? You absolutely can, but you're still running into the same issue. Because GPUs, you can't natively mine script with a GPU. And by native, that's the non-indirect method that we were discussing, where if you have an L3, it natively supports script and it can direct target the Litecoin network and mine that in, that's fine. But if you have a GPU, the GPU doesn't support the script logarithm natively. It supports Ethereum hash, Zhash, and all these other components. And so if you were to go spend $4,000 on a video card, and somebody makes this promise to you, like, yeah, this is mining a ton of Ethereum a day and you can mine whatever you want, you're really only going to be mining like $20, $30 a day. Doesn't matter how you get paid, it's only $20, $30 a day in whatever denomination you select.
I see. So in a way, it's kind of similar to, and it's essentially, discussing, or a similar term that we hear, I should say, in the cryptoverse with DYOR, right? Well, first off, you need to know what your goals are, right, as a miner, because you need to say, what do I want to do? Do I want to buy 5 cheap machines and pull it up, and maybe I make $5 a day? Okay, maybe I for example, right, you buy these machines, these $100 or $150 machines that you might only be able to yield $5 a day. Is it worth it? Am I looking for just to grab these cheap machines and just throw them into a certain script to take my $5 a day? or do I want to directly target, Litecoin, or do I want to directly target this specific coin and make more money a day? Correct?
100%. And right now, because when I bought my hardware, I acquired all 77 units for roughly $22,000. Obviously, you can't do that now with the hardware shortage. And so what people are running into is, let's say they've done the DYOR. They say, okay, I know I need the L3. I need the L3++. This is that entry level. This is a good middle of the road miner. This is what I want to do. Then the problem comes to, where do I get it? So they go to Lord Google, they put it in, and then you have minershop.com, Miners Cavern, whatever you might have you. You go out there and you see they have it in stock. And you're like, here's that FOMO, right? It says they got one left. And so you go to buy it, but then here's the problem. You can only buy it with crypto. Think about that for a sec. You can only buy this miner with crypto. So what happens if that site's not a real company?
Right.
And this happens all the damn time. Anybody who's ever been in hardware has lost money because they had been cheated with their first purchase. I'm one of them. Thankfully, it was only a $10,000 purchase and not the bigger one. But you go to put in Google what you're looking for, and you have all these websites come up, the same with scam tokens. It looks real. And, oh, yeah, we got it in stock. So then they go out to sites like Alibaba, and then they're looking on Facebook. And the problem with buying these used products, we mentioned overclocking. And overclocking is the ability to take your existing 580 mega hash and load third-party non-supported firmware and jack that up to 700 mega hash. Now, what would you think would happen if I overclocked that all the processors on that board? Do you think it might run a little hotter?
Yeah, you would no, I mean, so it's not. I'm in a so like obviously for my profession I work with data center UPSs, and so obviously right you're overloading these UPS. It's the same concept, right? So say they're meant to run at 40 kilowatts or whatever, and you're loading, which is tough. You load it at 60 kilowatts. Well, obviously, what's going to happen? You're going to get faults. Something's going to go wrong. That machine's going to either shut down or you're going to drop a load, or in this case, it's going to drop a load. But the machine's going to fault in some way, right?
It is, and the unfortunate with that is those are the ones that are conveniently for sale on the Facebook Marketplace, or somebody on eBay saying, "Hey, I've got this." And if you're seeing these for sale and it's cheap, something is definitely wrong. And part of that DYOR is, even though you know the model device that you're looking for, you need to understand what to look for with the device. You need to understand when you're looking at Screen Alpha and Screen Bravo, you need to be able to identify the tells on each one of those screenshots that the seller is showing you, if there's any indicators, anything wrong. In this case, I had a gentleman purchase an L3++, and he sent me a screenshot. He couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. Well, it shows all four boards. It shows 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then directly across is just a straight set of zeros. Now, a straight set of zeros is what you want all the way across. That's representing each chip on the board that it's operational. He sent me a picture. Every one of them was an X all the way across. And that thing's fan was not spinning, and it kept shutting itself down because the temperature was too high. So whomever had it overclocked the hell out of it, and just ended up reselling it. So it's not to scare anybody or intimidate anybody to get away from mining, but you're starting to see the pattern. To learn how to set it up and to actually do it, that isn't the problem. The problem is obtaining the hardware, trusting what you're reading, trusting what you're buying, trusting what you're running, and confidence in its consistency of that mining and the application you're using that for. And so that's where folks like me have come into play, where we work with people that are very knowledgeable in their respective environments, but they have no idea where to get the hardware. They have no idea what they're looking for with the hardware. They know this is what they want to go after. And the moment you start asking them, what do you want to mine? Oh, Litecoin. Okay, well, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this. They're fine with that, except when you say, okay, when you buy the product, let me know, because they're the first ones to come back and say, hey, I think I just sent Bitcoin to somebody and they didn't ship me a miner. And so that's where you start getting into difficulty in getting into mining.
So when you look at something, right, so say you're looking at purchasing, so say me, Mr. Joe Friday goes in and he's looking for a unit, right, and he wants to, I want to get into it. I don't know a ton, you know, I see different price ranges, obviously. Common sense, at least for me, tells me you're going to get what you pay for. So you want a machine that has, you know, that's been, at least for me, when I'm buying something, I look for reviews. I'll ask people what if they've used it, if they've heard of it. I'll look online, look up all reviews of everybody. But what are a few things that I can look for if I'm looking at, whether it be a picture or a description of a unit? Are there any like telltale things that I could look for and say, okay, there's something wrong with this unit, or hey, this unit is not what this is a scam?
And that's a great question, and it really depends on the type of unit, because unit interfaces are different. But I would definitely say if you're looking at a stock photo image of the unit, unless it's brand new, you know, that's one thing. But know the source. Know where you're buying it from. If it's from a company, do research at the Secretary of State's office where the company is located, if they're U.S. based, and see if that company is even a registered business. It's very easy to go buy Trustpilot reviews, where, oh, great site, you know, great service, great hardware, and so forth. Don't look for those one-liner reviews. So first, you need to verify that the business is legit. And second, when you're looking for those reviews, look for those reviews that have been well written out by real customers, in the sense that folks like me know that there's too much of a scam market for hardware. And so when we order hardware from a reputable dealer, we take the time to go out there and post a legitimate review, and a lot of us tag our Twitter sign at the bottom, because we want other persons to know this is a legit seller, because you're going to get screwed. And unfortunately, the majority of if right now, if you were to go out there and look at, you know, L3++ miners for sale, the majority of what you're going to get back on Google, those are scam sites. And so it's knowing what you're looking for and knowing the product extensively to be able to ask for screenshots of, you know, maybe like a live demo of somebody booting it up. That's where it becomes difficult. Now, I don't want to freak anybody out and deter them from mining, because my recommendation for anybody, if they've ever wanted to start getting into mining, is learn how to do it from your home computer. Because the same concept of just using your processor to go after a really, really simple coin that's, you know, billions of micro pennies and so forth, and takes next to nothing in processing power. Bless you.
Thank you.
The context of learning how to set up your computer and setting up the digital wallet, and learning, you know, what hash is, and you know, learning to connect to a pool. Once you kind of understand a little bit more and get on cruise control with how you're setting all those components up, and then you're looking at, yeah, I'd like to maybe look into mining some Bitcoin, and then you're looking at the hardware there, mining some Litecoin. We had mentioned that Doge, as an example, is a byproduct of mining Litecoin. So for every one Litecoin that you have mined in its entirety, it's you have also generated an equivalent 2,000 Doge to your wallet. And so there are several logarithms that, as you're mining them, allow for dual mining capabilities. And again, it just goes back to knowing that hardware. And so I try to educate folks to the best that I can. If they come and say, I want to get Litecoin, I want to get Ethereum, or if they say they want to mine Donkey and don't understand how they could do that. But it's educating them on the products that they're looking for, and then giving them a little cheat sheet on things to ask for, depending on what products that is, or depending on the coin that they're looking for.
Got it. Okay. So to kind of recap, and I just want to ask one more question, and then obviously I know that you're a very, very busy man. But I guess the last question for today at least would be, if there were, because I want to get into, on our next episode, you mentioned one aspect of mine that is very, very important, which is cooling, because these units give off a lot of heat, and you have to not only know your spacing, where you're located, like the physical location of these miners, but you also have to be able to make sure that the airflow and the environment is, suitable for these units to be able to run effectively without, altering their life flow, right? And they're obviously decreasing their lifespan. So without going too in depth with that, what is because I kind of want to at least learn about a little bit about the environment and maybe next episode, because I know that your cooling situation is very, very unique, and I think that it's worth talking about in great detail, because you found a way to effectively manage your cooling without in a very natural way. And I think that cooling can end up being just as much of an expense as actually running miners, and which I know is a very weird concept to think about, but cooling units give off just as much, maybe not as much depending on what you're using, but they give off as much power as some of these miners do. So, what kind of thing do you look at when you're telling somebody, when you're recommending to somebody, this is the kind of unit I want, or this is the kind of unit you want, okay? And then, when they're talking about their environment, what do you recommend in terms of an ideal environment?
Well, great question. I think that the simplest analogy that I could give is consider each one of these units as a mini space heater. That's what they are. And so understanding it would be like, if you want to run this off in a corner in your living room, okay, you're going to have vacuum cleaner loudness with a space heater pumping out that heat. And so the environmental considerations as far as humidity, airflow, that cannot say that enough. You're absolutely right that people will spend a lot of money on air conditioning to try to keep their mining operations cool. But what they fail to understand is that proper airflow done correctly, you need very minimal, if hardly much, actual air conditioning, depending on humidity, of course. But the most important thing would be that ventilation, your intake, your ventilation, and just getting that heat away, as far away from that unit as possible. As the more heat resonates around the miner, you start getting components in the glue that begins to melt. The soldering on the chips begins to liquefy-ish, and you begin to run into fault. So, especially if you're overclocking something, you're heating that up.
Right.
But there's absolutely that consideration for, if you're getting into mining, taking into consideration what that power drain is going to require. And real quick, with that being said, depending on where you live, some municipalities would require a permit to bring in an additional 200 amp panel if you feel like you're going to go all out. Like we have 3 200 amp panels here in the home, and we have 6 at the offsite mining farm. So understanding there is an investment into the electrical grid, and then understanding, if you're just going to set this in a room somewhere and you're just going to back it up against a window and vent out, most home miners can get away with that. They truly can. But once you start getting into the larger equipment, and 1 turns to 5, turns to 10, turns to 20, and you get bit by the bug, you're going to be looking for dedicated space that you're going to need cooling towards. And you bring up a good point. There's a lot, it really is, and I'm so glad we're doing this as a series, because so much of what we discussed, we're talking about logarithms and heating, cooling, dual mining, digital wallets, hash. There's a ton. There really is, and it comes at you fast and furious, and this is why a lot of folks think, God, this is why I could never get into it. But I can tell you that anybody I've ever had the privilege of working with over the course of several hours, by the time that they were done, everything made sense. where it just all clicked, it just all connected. And what I would implore our viewers to do, or anybody watching this in the future, is write down what your goals are for mining. Like, why are you wanting to get into mining? What are some of the things you've heard about that you may want to validate, trust but verify? What turns you on with mining? To me, mining is financial independence. Mining is the ability that I have made an investment into products, into hardware, that I will make my money back. I'm going to take a loss at first, but the goal is, once you hit ROI, that you are generating a passive source of income that if you want to use it, you can, or if you want to invest it in other projects, you can. So I would definitely implore everybody that is interested in learning how to do this the right way, do a little bit of homework. Ask yourself what it is that you're wanting to get out of that, and as the series continues, the verbiage is going to make much more sense, and things are going to begin to click with people on how to make the solution work for them, including the nefarious ventilation, which can be absolute hell. If not done right, you'll fry equipment, and by the way, you don't get refunds. You know what I mean?
No.
if you fry it, you don't get. There is no warranty on this. Like, even though Bitmain says, oh, we give you 30 days or 90 days, nope. Imagine spending 20 grand on hardware, it frying, and you're out of luck. So know what you're doing. Know what you are doing. There's a lot to learn, but we have a lot more content that's going to be coming too. Right,
and that's a great point. Is that we're going to have plenty of time to talk about this, and I definitely want to talk more about, and we will obviously, about the ventilation and kind of going more in depth as to what we talked about today, because I'm sure that people that are listening, there were a lot of terms being thrown around, and they're probably saying, well, what is hash, or what is this? This is the kind of questions that hopefully that everybody will kind of make note of and ask and come to us and kind of present, so we can kind of clarify this, because again, these are all recorded. So the great thing about this is you can go back and kind of listen to this, and the more that you listen to this stuff, the more you can also do your own independent, Google what is this, and I find myself doing that all the time with just random stuff, and you'd be surprised about how much you learn, and then you present them to us, and and to Hunter, and especially not me. I mean, I don't know anything, but present it to Hunter, and it's a great learning opportunity, and you're a great resource, and we can't thank you enough for coming out and chatting with us, and this was a lot of fun.
And one thing, if I may add, it's that I'm going to be putting out there, if you want to designate a safe spot for me to be able to do it, I'm going to be putting out there a whole bunch of resources, such as like known vendors that they're legit. Some known vendors. I'm going to be introducing hash rate calculators, so people can kind of see, everything that we talk about. I'd like to kind of have these links where folks can say, oh, well, he mentioned a hash rate calculator. I want to check that out, or I want to go look at the hardware. And so this way, folks can have that associative context of the conversation and be able to formulate those questions a little bit more concisely. And so on the next rounds, and as time is going on, and we can answer these questions, we're providing the viewers with links to valid websites to place orders, or links to sites that will give you truth in regards to the mining. Everything from some ventilation ideas to power ideas, even the hash calculators. They're a lot of fun, because you get to kind of put in, like, if I bought 5 of these and I put this much in, how much am I making per month? And so I think that's what's going to really help the series as well, and all of the watchers with it, is it's not just a conversation that you and I are having and answering questions for people. We're providing these resources from trusted sources to help answer these questions and to help get people on that track, because there's nothing like that sense of financial freedom. It's not a conceited statement to say, we've all had to work our ass off to get there, but when you are getting to a point in life where you're making money while you're sleeping, you've done it right. So if that's what people are trying to go towards, you start small. We all started small. I started on a Raspberry Pi. I still have the damn thing. And getting to 77 of these things was not easy, but anybody can do this. I mean, really, I don't want anybody watching this thinking, wow, it's going to be too complicated. I can't do this. I'm going to need a ton of money. No, you don't. But if you just want to learn how to do it and do it right, we'll provide those resources for you.
Right, right. So what we'll do is we'll get you, we'll find a place and we'll touch base and we'll kind of find a way to present these links, which I think is a great idea, honestly, for every Fireside we do. We talk to great guests every week, and might be a great idea to kind of have a place to house all these. So we'll be in touch and we'll figure that out. So I agree. I think that there's no way that you can just listen to this once and absorb it. You definitely need some sort of reference point. I mean, it's not something that is just absorbable and that's it. So so we'll figure that out. I think that's a great idea, and we will be in touch about that to give the audience a not only a link to the show, but a link to kind of the information that's presented. So thank you again. Thank you. This is we'll be launching our episode 2 soon. We'll be touching base about that. Hunter, you and I will touch base. We'll figure out when we're going to do that, and we'll talk a little more in depth, and make sure we give people the resources to kind of have their reference points. So, is there anything else you wanted to state before we sign off for the AstroDonkey crowd?
Happy birthday, Nick. Hands down, brother. Happy birthday to you. I'm really, really appreciative of everybody this evening. Always thankful to come and have a chat with you. I know there's a lot of people, they're new to crypto. There's so much that's out there. And, we have a great network of folks that's out there. There's a much larger community that exists to really help people. And I'm thankful for all of them. And so, congratulations on Token 2, Space Trash Panda.
Yes.
Plush is on a mission. And I'm going to tell you guys, it's like I have a couple of wallets that are loaded. But you got to get into that pre-sale. And what time is it at? Yeah,
so that'll be announced. We're going to be announcing that shortly. We haven't disclosed that yet. I know. You can still hear me? No, we'll be announcing that soon. So
congratulations to you and the team on that, man. That's a big to-do. You guys have had a very successful donkey launch. It's so great, man. I mean, there's only very few projects that I'm always so proud to really kind of to pump up and to help promote in that because there's something that I believe in. You guys have been great. Other folks know those projects that I'm referring to. They're here, love it. But you guys have done a fantastic job. You're in Token 2. If I may ask, how many tokens total are coming onto the platform?
Well,
because I know this is a long game.
It is. And I don't know how much I can say, but what I could say right now is 4.
Nice.
Maybe.
So it is a long game. And that's exactly
it. Is a long game.
Just like with mining, folks, you're not going to make your money on mining right away. Just like with crypto, you're not going to make that money right away. It's the long game, but if you're looking for financial independence, projects like Donkey, STP, along with mining for the long term, you're on your fast track to get there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, my friend. Thank you for the wishes. I almost forgot that it was, so you reminded me again, unfortunately. So thank you for that. But thanks for stopping in as always, and we'll be in touch soon, and we'll be back with episode 2 soon. Again, STP presale this Saturday. Make sure that you guys get your wallets loaded up and ready to go. 60 BNB hard cap. Remember that. Only 60. So this is not going to last very long. This is not going to be this is going to be a quick one. So make sure you're locked and loaded for Saturday. Guys, thank you again. Hunter, a pleasure, my friend. Have a great night, and we'll be in touch soon.
Take care. Thank you.
Thanks, Hunter.